Hey, welcome to the Montreal Man Show. And there's a few things on my mind today. Like, one thing I want to talk about is how some people think it's culturally inappropriate for someone like me to have stuff like this. This is my Asian doll collection. Oh, and of course, my mother-in-law's lions, which I love. And, first of all, it's not cultural appropriation. These are something I appreciate. I like rescuing them. Most of these are rescues. And the thing is this too. What is wrong with someone like me having an Asian doll collection? I appreciate the culture. I appreciate the aesthetics of them. And I know you're thinking, you're a dude. Those are dolls. Yeah, so what? They're well made. They're well crafted. They have a look to them. And they're not that much different than an action figure, except these aren't posable. Unlike action figures, which I get if you watch my other channel, I take them out of the package and put them on the shelf. These are just already on the shelf. And they are gorgeous. It's not cultural appropriation, by the way, because I appreciate it. I'm not making fun of them. I'm not saying I am one of those, because let's be honest, I could never pass. I don't look good in a dress, period. But no, this is just a wonderful collection I started years ago, thanks to my, actually at the time, my wife, or now my ex-wife. Hi, Allison. And I started these because of this one here. This gorgeous doll here. We were at a garage sale. The woman was disappointed no one was willing to buy because it had a slight crack in the face. I'm like, I'll buy it. In some ways, it reminds me of my two daughters, but they were little babies. But no, this is not cultural appropriation. And that's the thing with the world nowadays. They view anything that's not part of your culture as, oh, you're taking it from somebody else's culture. No, I'm not. I appreciate it. It's not that. I'm not trying to say this is my culture. No, this is my collection. But it's not my culture. I appreciate the aesthetics of this. I appreciate the cultural look of this. I mean, what's wrong with that? Seriously. I'm not doing any funny voices. I'm saying I really like getting these. I've got a few. They're from different countries as well. You have Japanese, Chinese, Thailand. I think I got one that's from Vietnam as well. They're just nice to have. They're gorgeous. It's like a lucky cat. For example, lucky cats, a lot of people think are Chinese. They're actually Japanese. But most Chinese restaurants have them. Why? Because they appreciate them. That's it. It's not they're not stealing from the Japanese culture. They're saying, hey, the Japanese cultural thing, we like it. And they have no problem with that. I got a few lucky cats, by the way. But it's just one of those things where, you think, someone made this. That's skill. I can't do that. But no, that's pretty much it. I just wanted to start the show off by saying, hey, I got a beef with people who think it's wrong for a guy like me to collect dolls. Nothing wrong with collecting dolls. Hell, my mother did. My mother used to collect elephants with the trunk up, never the trunk down. That, to me, I thought was a bit weird. So was collecting crystal animals, which didn't look like the animals at all. But if you collect something, don't let someone judge you for it. That's the whole point. If you like Asian dolls, collect them. If you collect, African sculpted things, but you're not from Africa, there's nothing wrong with that. If you appreciate the culture, that's fine. Heck, that's what museums are for. Now let's get on to, let me see. What should we do next? Well, you'll find out in a second. Well, as you know, this is my library. This is where I sort of pretend to sleep. Try to sleep. But this is also where I keep a lot of my antique books. Like I have a whole bunch of books in the showcase here. But it's also where I keep some of my favorite books that maybe not be antique, but I just like them enough that I want to have them around so I can reread them every now and then. Now, last week I mentioned a series where the author passed away, and my friend Shane managed to help me get the last two books I was missing for the series. But he did a series before that. And this was done by Alan Coyle and Chris Brunch, co-authors. And it was the Sten series. Now, this series, well, let's just put it this way. It shows that one of the co-authors was a former CIA member. It's so well detailed and well written, with a sense of humor. There's a Scottish character in this book that has one of my favorite sort of like Scottish jokes of all time. I'm not going to read it because I want you to buy these books. So the first book was Sten. It then came out with Wolf Worlds, So you can imagine there's a military thing building up, but it's also science fiction. It's pretty obvious I like science fiction. And the third book, of course, was The Court of 1,000 Suns. Yes, we're getting political now. It's such a complex series. And of course, you have The Fleet of the Damned. Oh, once more, military, sci-fi, and a little bit of politics mixed in. Then, of course, you have, like any war story, you're going to have prisoners, and you're going to have Revenge of the Damned. And, of course, that was followed by, well, It's a Space Empire, Return of the Emperor. And, of course, you have to have another series, which was Vortex. And, of course, like all good things, Empire's End. Now, this series, I honestly still believe to this day, would make the perfect series for a film series. Not a TV series, a film series. So, hey, Snyder, you want something and forget doing Rebel Moon, which is, I enjoyed the first two, but for your next project, if you can't go do Justice League again, which would be nice, get the rights to this, because unfortunately, they did one more series together, and that series was The Last Legion. Now, this was Chris Bunch on his own, and unfortunately, he passed away after finishing this series. That means there's no more of his books. This is it. This series is the last one he did. Sci-fi, not the same characters. A lot of people thought, okay, it's going to be the same characters. No, it's different. It's actually, in some ways, better. Now, this, of course, only had 4 volumes. So you had the first one, you had the second one, which was Fire Mask. And, of course, thanks to my buddy Shane, who managed to get these for me, he went to a secondhand bookstore. Think about it. He picked up Stormforce and the last book, Homefall. Now, when I read this one, knowing the fact that the author was no longer alive, it was emotional, because this is the end of this voyage. And that's the great thing about reading books, is that when you read books, series like this, you go on a trip, you're on a voyage, you're sharing the experience of the characters. And that's something a lot of people, I think, don't understand about reading books. I know some people go, I don't read books, I don't waste my time. No, but you'd rather watch a TV show where everything's sort of depicted for you. The thing about books like this is you can picture the environment, the characters, everything in your own head. It's called an imagination. The voices of the characters are the voices you make up for them. And that's something that's nice and great about reading books. That's why I love having books. Don't get me wrong, I watch a lot of TV and movies too. I have a pretty big movie collection downstairs. But there's nothing like the satisfaction when you read a book and you get to the end and you want more. And that's the great thing about books. And that's why I'm always encouraging people to go out and look for books. Like, go look for the Sten series. Go look for Chris Bunch's Last Legion series. Yes, there's a sadness to it when you get to the end of a book, but then again, there's that wonderful journey of finding a new author or somebody else to read or another story to continue. And that's the great thing. That's why I always say, go to the secondhand bookstores. It's worth it. We have to keep them alive. The other reason is, too, is because he's no longer alive. If we don't start looking for his books, in some ways, this fantastic story of Sten, The Last Legion, will be lost to history. Because culture nowadays doesn't always look at, this book was written 20 years ago, this is really good. I mean, when I was a kid, in high school, 1984, George Orwell, Animal Farm, we read classics, How to Kill a Mockingbird. They don't even teach those anymore. And in some ways, it's only, for example, people like me and you, hopefully encouraging people to read these books, that they'll be able to still be alive. It's like one of the books I got my daughter was, I made her read Clockwork Orange after I made her watch the movie. Difficult book to read for her, but it was part of my generation. I've also gotten her a copy of Fahrenheit 451 because it's something that talks about society. And that's the great thing about books, even science fiction books. They will still communicate a view of the world that can always be applied. I've yet to read a book even from the old ones, that I can't take an element from that book and apply it to the modern world. It's in some ways it's scary that you can't read a book and go, oh, that doesn't apply to us. I mean, Odysseus Travels doesn't mean, oh wait, it does. Gulliver's Travels. Oh, it's a kid's book about a giant who goes oh, and you realize. So I'm always encouraging people, go read books. Go to your secondhand bookstore. Look for Alan Cole and Chris Bunch's Sten series. Look for Chris Bunch's last series. I do recommend it. And it's amazing how much when you read a book, you will be brought into a new world. And not just old books too. If you don't have a secondhand bookstore near you, try doing them ordering online. Or even go to the nearest new bookstore and just see if there's anything that sort of draws your attention. It doesn't have to be a science fiction book. It could be something like a war drama. It could be a romance. Even though I can't stand Harlequin romances, I don't get them. But don't wait for something to be told you it's super popular. 50 Shades of Grey, which, by the way, is a horrible book. Not just my opinion. But no, go encourage those book readers. Go to the secondhand bookstores because let's be honest, books are a dying breed. And that's a sad thing to say. I see less and less bookstores. I go to the bookstores here and it's not the same. When I was younger, you go to the bookstore, it was books, nothing but books. Sections and sections of different categories of books. You walk into most modern bookstores now, they might even have a coffee shop. They'll sell furniture, they'll sell knickknacks, they'll sell puzzles, and the book section seems to be getting smaller and smaller. It's like, if it's not top 40 books, they're not going to carry it. So that's why I encourage you, go to the secondhand bookstores. Now, something else about secondhand bookstores, or libraries. Let's talk about libraries. Because if you want books a bit more visual, I know I do comic books, and there'll be a segment coming up of the retro comic book review. But one thing I also want to recommend is go to your local library. Because a lot of time local libraries, after a while, if a book hasn't been checked out for a while, they'll sell them for next to nothing. And that's a good way of encouraging people to still read. And one of the things I do enjoy reading, don't be shocked by this, but BD. Oui, les bandes dessinées de la France. J'aime ça. J'ai toujours aimé ça. If you don't know what I said, well, I'm just saying one of the things I enjoy reading is BD, or French graphic novels. They're not comic books, they're graphic novels. They're always sort of like in a large format. And they range from stuff like Asterix, which I think is a kid's book, but when you really get into Asterix, it's really an adult book. It's very adult comedy. You know, a lot of people know Tintin, but read them in the original language. It's a good reason why you can learn French. But, for example, I got this at the library. This thing cost me, let me see, what did it cost me at the library? This cost me, I think it was $1. Yeah, $1. I picked up this BD for $1. Une pièce. Ça me coûtait une pièce. Enki Bilal. And by the way, Enki Bilal is a fantastic story writer, illustrator. You've probably seen a lot of his work without realizing it. But it's just, you know, you have visuals, you have story, and it's good stuff because a lot of times the stuff that comes out of France and Europe, you know, the BD craze, you'll get stories that you might not think about you would see in a comic book from the States. So I definitely encourage BD collecting. I like it. It's like people who read anime. No, I mean people who read manga. Well, they watch anime, read manga afterwards, or they read manga first. Manga is the same thing. You look at the manga from Japan. It's not always the same. There's so many different varieties of manga. It's the same thing for BD. But BD's been around for a long time. I've got a pretty nice little growing collection, and I definitely recommend pick up some BD. If you don't know who Enki Bilal is, just even his artwork alone is worth, you know, the value of it. I remember when I was younger in Montreal, there was a Magazine du Livre. It was on Barrie near St. Catherine. The basement alone was all BD. Like BD. Like racks and racks of BD. And it was fantastic. And that's gone. And that's why I want to encourage people. That's why I do this segment every week. I want to talk about old books. I want to talk about stuff like BD. Because you have to support those secondhand bookstores. You have to support your local library. Because without the library, more and more people would be not able to read. Or especially for people who can't afford books. You go to the library and take out a book. It's a good way of also finding an author you like. Go to the library. Check out a book. It costs you nothing. Libraries don't charge you to take a book out to read it. Or you can even sit in the library and read it. That's a good thing. I mean, I wish we had more libraries everywhere. You know, and it's the same thing, too, with secondhand bookstores. We need more of those. Because reading off a Kindle, and I have one, I'm sorry, there's nothing like the feel of a book in your hands, a real book in your hands, old book, instead of reading a screen. If I want to read a screen, it's called a computer. I have one downstairs, and honestly, I get tired of reading a book on a computer. So yeah, support your local bookstores. Look for old books. Look for new authors as well. And definitely take a look at BD, the local library. So that's it for the book segment, sort of. Let's go on to the comic book review. All right, we'll be back shortly. Well, as you can tell by that little segment of credits, this is the retro review, or the retro comic book review. Now, one thing I want to talk about, first I was going to do a sample of this entire line, all in one video. Then I realized, no, I don't want to do that. But I'm going to pick out one of these characters. Now, this was something that was acquired by DC Comics years ago. And to be honest with you, DC Comics dropped the ball. They had something they could have done really, really amazing stuff with, and they just didn't do it properly. Now, that's not to say the comic books themselves weren't good, but they made it a separate universe that they never integrated in with the regular community. So one of the books that they came out with was The Shield. Impact Comics, that's right, DC's long-forgotten Impact comic line. Now, if you don't know the history of this, was they basically had acquired the old Archie superheroes. They did. And they decided to, apart from, like, you all know about the Watchmen, how they're based on, the Charltons and so forth, they had these characters, and they weren't, and they, okay, we're going to redo them. We're going to recreate them. So they did, like I said, they did the Shield. Now, the nice thing about the Shield was the original Shield, designed by the king himself, Jack Kirby. But the way they did it is they got smart. They brought it into the modern age with still a connection to the past. And, of course, the Shield had spin-offs. And if you're wondering what I'm doing, I have multiple copies of each. And the reason why I do is because I actually really enjoyed this. I like the fact that it was something that you never seen before. And I remember when I was a young kid, yes, I was young once. People find that hard to believe. I don't know why. But I remember reading the old Archie comic books, and the Archie comic book superheroes, I always thought, wow, the characters are cool, but the comics are garbage. So when DC did them, I was like, this is really good. This is a really good new take on the characters. And they also introduced characters like using the Shield. I mean, they brought in the Fly, another Golden Age character that was brought back. But no, they just kept on doing a lot of good things with the comic book. It was generational. It was nice. And, I've got all the Impact comic books, which is great. But for example, when I say they brought back Trishan, they had the Golden Age Shield meet the new Shield. Ooh, continuity was going on there. But unfortunately, the sales weren't that great because, let's be honest, at the time, the market was flooded with comic book companies after comic book companies. And DC, instead of saying, okay, we're going to keep these characters somehow, they just canceled all the books, and they never brought the characters back, which is sad because this is it. This was the last sort of appearance of S.H.I.E.L.D. And you think they could have. They could have integrated these characters. The Impact characters, for example, you have S.H.I.E.L.D. I'll eventually talk about Jaguar. The Fly was in it. The Fly wasn't probably the most popular one they had. They had Web. They had all these great characters that honestly would have fit in wonderfully with the regular DC universe. And that's one thing when New 52 came out. I'm not sure if you ever checked out my old video where I called Jim Lee and Dan Dito out because they were saying it's a revamp. I'm saying it's a reboot. I was thinking at the time, maybe they'll bring in these characters that, they sort of teased us with for so long. We wanted the Impact comics because a lot of people like me liked the Impact comics. We actually enjoyed them. We actually had a good time reading these. It was nice to have something that wasn't, you know, the typical superheroes. They were well written, well drawn, not the greatest artists in the world, but they were well drawn, and I liked them. I would still love to get original Impact comic book artwork because I'm one of the people who appreciated them. And I think DC dropped the ball completely. I know they've been talking about years for bringing the Watchmen characters into the regular DC universe, and they kind of did that with Dr. Manhattan, but it's not the same. You know, it's with everything that they've ever done. I mean, I'm still a DC guy, let's be honest. But it was the biggest disappointment I had before New 52. Don't get me wrong, New 52 killed me. It's just, to this day, it still hurts. They had a great universe structure, was going, the stories were progressing, the characters were aging as I was aging, or as most people were aging, and they went and ruined it with New 52 and everything else they've done ever since then. Convergence, but the Impact comic books, the fact that they put money into these characters, they got the rights to them, and they just let them go. It's disturbing. And to this day, I still would love to see, I mean, can you imagine if DC, Warner Brothers, got off their butt, got smart, got someone who knows how to fix the DC universe, because from what I've been seeing they've been doing, they're not fixing it, they're just making it worse. Get someone who actually knows the comic book history, knows the comic books, brought them in, and that person said, hey, we're going to bring these characters back, but not as a separate universe. We're going to bring them back, period, into the regular DC storyline. Because I think it would be sort of amazing to take, for example, let's take the Hood, another one of the Impact characters. Imagine the Hood teaming up with the Question, or the Hood teaming up sort of with Batman. I'd like to see that comic book. It would be interesting. But no, that's it for the comic book review. If you go to a comic book store, ask them, do you guys have any old Impact comic books? They probably do. Probably in their quarter bin. Or their 10 pence bin, you know, whatever. But they do. Pick them up. I do recommend. You won't be disappointed. And the great thing about this is, unlike most comic books, like, you know, nowadays that come out with the companies, you don't know when it's going to end. Like with Marvel, you don't know when they're going to start a book and then cancel it. Or start it over again. Same with DC. They're always doing these things. This has a start and an end. There are no more issues. That's it. You can pick up, for example, the Jaguar series. It has a specific run. That is it. It's over at that point. And that's why I always say, check out comic book stores that have back issue bins. Don't always go for the new stuff. The new stuff, sometimes you'll appreciate the older stuff. It's really good. I mean, I love the Impact series. And, you know, they're not expensive to buy. They're a great read. They're fun to read. The annuals, by the way, just before I forget, the annuals, when they did finish the annuals, came out with cards. But it was just a wonderful series, and I miss it. And that's one of the things I find is a cool comic book review, is to look at comic books that were cool that somehow aren't around anymore. That's not to say I'm not going to do any bad comic books, because I have some. Wow. Because I was even talking about someone at a story the other day about one of the worst comic books ever. It's not from DC. It's not really from Marvel, but it's from someone associated with Marvel. But let's not even go there. But that's it for this part of the show. I hope you enjoy the show so far, and let's get on to the next segment, shall we? Yes, we shall. Get your ears ready. All right. I'm finding a lot of hate for this next topic, but I think it's about time someone actually brings it up. If you're like me, you know, you're on social media, you watch the news, and you hear a lot of these, I think they're called the Alpha generation, complaining about boomers and Gen X. They get us confused. Not the same. They even complain about millennials now and Gen Z. I just want to get something straight here. When I hear these younger, like less than 20-year-olds or like early 20s, complaining about Gen X, for example, saying that, how did we escape the generation war and so forth. And I know a lot of Gen Xers, because technically I'm born in 1965, I'm a Gen Xer. A lot of Gen Xers basically say, we don't care. It's how we were raised. And it's true. You can insult us all we want. We're like, okay, it's an insult. Sticks and stones. Don't break your bones, and words can hardly hurt you. Sticks and stones really don't really break your bones. Imagine how hard you'd have to throw a stick or a stone. Now, a baseball bat, that will break your bones. But let's not go down that weird rabbit hole. But, Gen Xers, we were raised differently. Yes, a lot of people refer to us as the wild generation. We drank from hoses. We played outside. We were unsupervised during the summer. Yeah, so we would survive the apocalypse. And that's true. If you think about it, who would survive the apocalypse? Boomers, they're too old. They would die in apocalypse. The alpha generation, the super sensitive generation, yeah. Gen X, we grew up watching Mad Max, all those apocalypse films. We know how to survive. Alpha generation, yeah. No internet, no phone, no power. You'd be in trouble. But that's not what we want to talk about today. What I want to talk about is the terminology that this younger generation likes to use, especially when they try to insult Gen Xers like myself. They will basically say, oh, you're just trying to be woke or new woke. Yeah, there is a difference. Ricky Gervais pointed out, most people are actually woke. They're very aware of people's sensitivities and so forth. Now, the new woke is the extreme of that, where, these people who are so new woke, well, I feel this way, so you have to respect me and do everything to make me feel better, and I don't care about you. That's new woke. And new woke honestly falls on my nerves. I hate it. I don't like people who say they're woke. Okay, you're aware of the cultural differences, you're aware of this, you're aware of that, but you might not understand everything. Now, the reason why I bring this up is most Gen Xers, we don't like the word woke or new woke, especially new woke. The reason for that is not because we're closed-minded bigots and homophobes. If anything, there's closed-minded bigots and homophobes of any generation. I've seen people in their young 20s who are racist, homophobic, transphobic. I don't care. That's just human nature. Some people are just, like that, where they don't have the open-mindedness to see people for what they are. It's not a generational thing. It's just humankind that way. It's like people who say, oh, white people are racist. No, humans in general are racist because I see it from other races as well. Trust me, there are. You travel the world, and it's not just against white people. Racism exists everywhere. We just get blamed for it more, which is whatever. I don't care. But the reason why I get bothered when I hear the words, oh, you're just trying to be woke, or you're woke, or you're new woke, is because my generation, Gen X, yes, we were the wild generation. We were also raised with one thing different than a lot of generations that have come since. Or the generations that have come since, don't realize that we had it. It was called respect. I know. We were raised to be respectful of others. Yeah, respect. Not woke, not new woke, but respectful. Gen Xers, they were raised, such as I was raised, to be respectful of other people. So we were raised to, we don't care about your color, we don't care about your ethnicity, we don't care about your religion, we don't care about any of that. Even your political views may be different than ours. We would basically be told to respect you because you'll respect me. Respect's a two-way street, It goes both ways. And it's true, it does. When you respect someone, quite often they'll respect you back. You might have a difference of opinion, and trust me, growing up in Montreal, back, in the 70s with the October crisis, the separation movement, I had friends who were francophone, pure francophone, separatists. I'm not. We still got along. We still had enough respect that we could have a conversation. It's the same thing, too, when I was in elementary school. I went to French elementary school, ben oui, élémentaire, and I was picked on, I was bullied, racist in some ways, because I spoke English. Franco-English. When I went to an English high school, the same thing happened in reverse. Oh, you speak French. Some racism about French people. In the end, though, because we were all raised, and as we got older, we understand that concept of respect. Yeah, respect. Respect. Aretha Franklin said it best. R-E-S-P-E-C-T. Respect. And that's the whole thing about Gen X. You can insult us all you want. We don't care. You can hate me for having this opinion. But the fact of the matter is, I will never say I'm new woke, because I will never say, oh no, you have to feel my feelings and respect my feelings, and like, my anxiety. Trust me, I saw a TikTok where a guy was complaining to Apple because he's a vegan and he didn't like the meat emoji. Then don't use it. But, and I'm not woke either. I don't like the word woke, because woke sort of implies that you weren't respectful of other people beforehand. That's what woke really means. It means, oh, you're woke now. You're being respectful now. Well, no, I've always been respectful. That's why I hate the word woke, especially when people try to use it as an insult against people who are Gen X or even Gen Z. Oh, you're so woke. No, we're respectful. We didn't just wake up one morning going, oh my God, people of different backgrounds are still human beings. No, we always knew that. As a kid growing up, I had neighbors of different backgrounds, different religions, different ethnicities. Heck, different color even. Oh, when I was in high school, one of our group, because we were a group of like 30 some odd rock and roll punk guys in a school of disco kids. That was painful enough. But one of our friends was, let's put it this way, I don't want to use a derogatory term, but he was Prince before Prince was even popular. This guy was flamboyant. He was out there. He was brilliant, though. He was super intelligent. He had a good sense of fashion ahead of time. And he was a wonderful person to be around of. Yeah, he was gay. Who cared? We didn't care. We respected him for being who he was. Period. Yes, he was gay. Who cares? I had friends who were lesbian in high school, too. We didn't care. We got to know somebody. We got to know their name. Hi, I'm Joseph. What's your name? Oh, nice to meet you. What are you going to talk about something? That's called respect. When you respect someone enough to ask them their name, you talk to them, and even though if you don't agree, guess what? You can still be friends. We don't have to wake up one day and go, oh no, the world's going to end. We already know it's going to end. It's called science. The same thing too with, respecting other people. Gen Xers, we were raised to not only respect people for being people, to respect their cultures, but also to engage in their cultures. I can tell you, I've been to Jewish weddings. I went to one Japanese wedding, which was gorgeous. Greek weddings, Muslim weddings. We experienced other cultures. We did do that. It was because we were encouraged to do it. We were encouraged to learn about the world and to respect other people. So the next time you hear the word woke, or someone calls you woke, if you're a Gen Xer, you're not going to give a shit anyway. We're like, we don't care. We've always been respectful of people. But when you hear these people talk about being woke or new woke, honestly, they're the ones who think, in my opinion, they're the ones lacking respect. Because if you really respect someone, you won't even put a label on them. I have friends of all different ages. I never put a label on them. I never go, oh, that's my old friend because she's in her 60s. That's my young friend because she's in her 20s. I don't do that. This is my friend. That's it. It's called respect. And that's something I think a lot of people nowadays have forgotten about. But thankfully, as Gen Xers, we're not going anywhere. Even if the apocalypse comes, Gen Xers will still be around. Because why? We respect each other. We respect most people. And in some ways, too, we even respect these new woke people because we know that they'll learn, hopefully. And that's pretty much it. We're going to wrap up the show with one more little segment. I hope you enjoyed my rant. If you hate me, that's fine. I'm sure I'll get some comments here. I also take this section of the Montreal Man Show and I put it on TikTok. And there, TikTok can be interesting as well. But I don't care about the hate. Trust me. The reason why I don't care about the hate, once more, Gen X trait. As long as the people I care about me, that's important. My daughter, Nicole, loves me. My daughter, Amy, loves me. Even my ex-wife still loves me. That's respect, people. And that's a hint. Instead of being woke, new woke, and putting up with this double speak they do all the time, how about we all just learn to respect? And that's the thought of the day. We'll see you back again in about 4 or 5 seconds after this next edit. All right, it's that time once again in the show to talk about K-pop or just music in general. But today, of course, we're sticking with K-pop because, shockingly, I love K-pop. Go figure. Maybe we'll start talking down the road about, some stuff from Japan, some J-rock or J-heavy metal. But we're going to stick to K-pop today because I like K-pop. And one of the people who's really good in K-pop is Chung Ha. This is her newest video, came out 3 days ago, called I'm Ready. I have not seen this, so this is Montreal Man Reacts to the video. So, copyrights be damned. Let's watch the video, let's listen to it, and let's see what I have to think. Right off the bat, I love the cinematography in this shot. And yes, of course, there's dancing.
I'm ready to get this, ready to get this, ready to get this stage.
Once more, she's singing in English. Oh, gorgeous.
Got this perfected, so high I won't forget this. I'm ready to get this, ready to get this, ready to get this stage. 소란스러운 밤을 지나 저 빛을 향할까. 움츠렸던 시간만큼 날개를 펼쳐가. Never stop, I love this feeling 더 높이 날아나.
You have to admit, those kind of close-ups are just so captivating. Another thing about these videos is they know how to edit. Oh, I love that.
EENIE.
Okay, that's just a teaser. And I'm looking forward to this album now. That just gives you an idea of what kind of work they put into their music, and not only just their music, in their presentation of the music. Wow. So like I said, the link's going to be in the description as well. But let's go on to, I did promise you guys last week that we were going to do my favorite group, Mamamoo, the queens of K-pop. Now, this is one of their older videos. It's not like the oldest, it's not the newest, but it's the one I think really captured a lot of people into going, wow, that's gorgeous, it's beautiful. This was filmed in New Zealand, by the way. It's Windflower. And this song, to me, I think I tormented my daughter when I first heard this song. I would play it every day. I still listen to it a lot. But let's give it a look. I don't have to react to this one because I already know the video. And it is gorgeous. I might point out one or two things. We're not going to watch the whole video because I still want you to go to the link, support their channel, give them a like, subscribe to their channel, but let's start for a bit. Oh, not what you were expecting, was it? Now, not all videos have this kind of quality of cinematography. A lot of them do, though. That's Hawassa. That's Solar. That's EENIE. And that's Hawassa. Now, another thing about watching K-pop, put the captions on. That's Moonbill, by the way. She's a rapper and dancer, and she's brilliant. It makes me want to go to New Zealand even more. Here it comes. See how the tempo rises? It takes you on a journey. And that's the nice thing about music. You don't have to understand what they're saying. Just let it carry you away. Let it bring you somewhere. They do say music soothes the soul. It definitely works. Now look, we're doing that, but it's true. Okay, we'll let it go a little bit longer, then we'll stop it because I do want you to watch the video. One little bit more. You don't want to turn it off, it's so good. we'll stop it there. Like I said, the link's going to be in the description as well. I do recommend go check them out because Mamamoo is very versatile. So it's not just, you know, dance music. They have these wonderful themes. There's a story behind all of their videos. There's a message. That's why I put the captions on, because I want to know what the message is. So, and to wrap up the music part of the day, I did promise one last video. And 17, it's my daughter's favorite group. Even though ATEEZ has been competing with 17 a lot lately. Because a lot of people in the States, they know, you know, Blackpink, they know BTS, but these, to me, are the kings of K-pop. Now, I was talking to one of my friends, Maya, and I was like, what 17 song should I use to introduce you to 17? And she was recommending Clap, because everyone knows in K-pop, knows they're known for their song Clap. And I was also thinking, well, there's also Fear. But I went with this one instead. Because this one is Clap, and I like it. It's not Very Nice. Sorry, I meant to say that Very Nice is the song they're known by. I actually think Clap is one of their better videos. And yes, I have a thing for establishing shots. Cinematography. Tell me a story. Give me some visuals. And here we go. And there's 13 members in 17. Don't even ask me. Clap. A little bit of comedy. You gotta like that. They don't always take themselves so seriously. Uh-oh. Thunderclap.
Basu 17 right here. 괜찮아 괜찮아 이런 일들 많잖아.
And if you want choreographed dancing, these guys are the king. I get to see another boy group or guy group from South Korea or even Japan that can dance so well choreographed as these guys can. And you gotta admit, when they drop the beat, it just sounds so good. Now, while this is playing, let me know if you want to see me react to more K-pop, because I don't mind. 'Cause maybe I'll even just do like a Montreal Man reacts to K-pop separate thing, a different show. But for now, it's part of this show. Another good thing about these kind of videos are they actually put money in their videos. These are great directors. This is also the same reason why a lot of people are watching K-dramas now. They discover that South Korea, they know how to film and make stories and music. Not all old guys listen to the same music over again. We like mixing it up. Music keeps you young. And you hear this, you just kind of want to move. That's the great thing about it. All right, I'm going to stop it. Because once again, I want you to go to their channel, hit like, subscribe, listen to their other music. It's really good music. It's really entertaining. That's how good it is. That's how good it is. That's right. Well, I think that's going to pretty much end the segment part of the show. We'll go to the wrap up in a minute. But thank you once more for enjoying spending time with me. Hopefully you like some of the things I have to say. If you hate what I have to say, well, that's your problem, not mine. I'm not going to be offended. And even if I do get offended, it's only a word. I'm not going to be hurt. It doesn't physically affect me. And if you are offended by anything I say here, to quote Jimmy Carr, grow up. Be mature about it. Because being offended is a feeling. It's like, oh, I'm offended by this joke. It's a joke. You didn't like it. That's fine. I'm offended by what a lot of people say, especially politicians. Doesn't mean it's going to personally ruin my life. No, it just means, okay, you said something offensive. I might lose some respect for you a little bit. Because keep in mind, respect is very important. And I respect your opinion. Hopefully you respect mine. And hopefully you do, have a good rest of the week. And we'll see you next week on the Montreal Man Show. Until then, let's go to that little wrap-up segment, and we'll see you then. Are you still there? You are? Good. Well, I thought I'd end today's show with something that's a little bit maybe on the controversial side. Because I've been talking about collections every now and then, and I've got quite a few. And one of the things I do collect as well is tarot cards. I collect tarot cards. And no, I'm not one of those people, oh, tarot cards tell your future. No, they're a psychological tool to help you understand what's going on in your brain, but that's not really the reason why I collect them. I also collect them because it is part of my culture, but it's also because I really appreciate the art in them. Now, I have one tarot card deck that a lot of people would be offended by, especially down south, because it's the RuPaul Drag Race tarot card deck. That's right. It's basically full of queens. Now, this is what I find funny about certain people nowadays who are so terrified and paranoid about drag queens. They're fearful that a man wearing makeup in a dress is dangerous. Do you not remember growing up? I mean, if you're a boomer, you had Milton Berle quite often did drag. You had the Marx Brothers did drag. Sid Caesar did drag. I mean, in my generation, we had Flip Wilson. The guy was always doing drag. We didn't care. We thought it was funny. I mean, it was. It's the same people who thought Bugs Bunny wearing a dress was bad and had to be edited because it's telling kids to wear a dress. It was a cartoon! Traditionally, men have worn dresses to entertain. Heck, if you go back to what Shakespeare used to do back in those days, women didn't act. No, it was young men, young boys in dresses playing Juliet, Ophelia. So, to the people who have a problem with drag queens reading library books to a kid, maybe it's because you can't read yourself. I have no problem with drag queens. I think they're interesting. I have no problem with drag kings because they're doing a show. They're putting some entertainment on. I grew up watching Flip Wilson. I used to watch the old Milton Berle clips. Heck, I used to watch Hollywood Squares with Paul Lynde. No one had a problem back then. We didn't care. So if you're one of those people who has a problem with a man wearing a dress to entertain you, like on a show, like a drag show, or reading books in a library, you got problems. Either that or you lived such a sheltered life that you never saw any old movies, you never saw any old TV, or you just live under a rock. No insult to creatures who live under a rock, but seriously, it's just entertainment. It's not like they're coming up to you wearing a dress, asking you for a date. Sorry, no ladyboys here. That's in a different country. And they're honest about it too. So, if you have a problem with drag shows and drag queens, well, then maybe you should re-examine your history. Because I'm sure at one point, maybe when you were younger, if you had sisters, you had to wear your sister's dress so it can be hemmed. Does that make you a drag queen? No. It just means you did something to help somebody out, and that's all these drag queens are doing. They're reading to kids because you haven't taken the time to do it. They are. So get off their backs, leave them alone, and let drag live. That's it. And we'll see you next week on the Montreal Man Show. Once more, thank you for watching the video. Thank you for hitting like. Thank you for subscribing. And please, please share these videos because why not? And on that note, we'll see you next week.